Coming to you live with another episode of Roasting Coffee. Live from my backyard. My name's Chris. This is my coffee roaster, and I got a couple of green bags of coffee beans we're going to get roasting here in just a moment. I wanted to get you started with what we're going to be adding into the roast. We've got an El Salvador bean here and got some chocolate notes. I picked both of these bags because they both list that they have chocolate notes. So I'm trying to get a more equally balanced blend of coffee beans roasted here. This is a Sumatra. And again, it's got some coffee notes. It's got a couple of other little hints of flavor in it, but for the most, it was a chocolatey type of a flavor. So I haven't ever concentrated on this before for doing this kind of roasting. You know, I've always just kind of grabbed a couple of bags of beans and thrown them in the mix here and just started roasting. So I'm going to go ahead and add the bags of beans in here and get things started, and then we're gonna come back to a few things to talk about while things are roasting here. We're gonna go over kind of what's been going on, what I've been doing, and how I got into coffee roasting, and just kind of give you some guidelines here to maybe get you interested in doing some roasting. So I added the El Salvador, and I've added the Sumatra. Got it started here, and I have lit the burner, and this is where you need to start paying attention to things. You see I have my thermometer in the top right corner up there, keeping track of the temperature of the bean, and I'm going to go ahead and fill you in why I'm doing just a post edit here. I had a lot of problems on my live, and I finally figured out what the issue was, and the issue was no fault of my own. I found out that's why I couldn't fix it. Prior to setting up this live stream, I had upgraded my program, and it was just a standard thing. I opened it up, said there was an upgrade available. I upgraded it, and I let it go and do its thing, and it restarted and all that kind of stuff. I got going, and I hadn't changed any settings. I had everything set up, the way it's supposed to be set up. Well, come to find out, I started doing my live stream, and my audio is just echoing, and I couldn't understand why it was echoing, and I'm trying to figure this out while I'm doing the live. And while I'm trying to figure this out, a freak thing happened. My drum came off my roaster stand and was just laying on the burner, and basically starting to burn the beans. It did not burn the beans, but it came close. I had got out there and I'd got it fixed in time before it had done any major damage, but it was a freak thing. I have never had the roaster come off of the stand before, and it just happened to happen while I wasn't paying attention. And I'm normally out there when I'm doing the roast, and I'm either doing the live or whatever, and I'm monitoring it. And this is the first time I've ever stepped away from it, not actually been paying attention to it, trying to fix this audio issue. And it does this. It was, par for the course as far as things go. It's, what's going to happen is going to happen. So I have edited that part out. I mean, it's basically just, the roaster came off and it's sitting on the burner and it's burning, and I go out there and pick it up, put it back on the roaster, and get it going again. But there's a lot of blocked video and stuff like that from me standing there in front of the cameras and stuff trying to get this fixed. So I just kind of cut that out. So that's what happened. 2 issues. So I'm just doing this post stream here, and on top of all of that, I had a really busy day. I made some sourdough bread today. I had been preparing all week, getting my starter ready and all that kind of stuff, and I have a 2-year starter for sourdough bread, and I was just ready to do it. It's something that I kind of do every couple months, do a couple of batches and get it going. and we freeze it and stuff like that so we can have it with dinner, whenever we're ready for some bread. So I had actually been, cooking doing the whole bread thing all the way up into this live video that I was doing. It literally, I started this at 2 o'clock and my bread came out of the oven at 1:58. And while my bread was cooking, I was, setting this whole live stream up. So just a whole, not so much comedy of errors as just a whole comedy of things just kind of happened during this one roast here. And I came to find out it was to no fault of my own. All my settings were correct. It just was something that happened with the updating of the program and everything that I'm doing. So, my coffee beans are spinning here. It's 129 degrees, 130 degrees so far. You're going to see a couple of cuts come in and out of the video here because there are some spots that parts that I edited out. The good thing is at the end of the video, you will see a successful roast, all things considered. Didn't burn any beans, didn't get anything really, too crazy, but there was some beans that were a little more roasted than others. And part of it could have been that sometimes, some of these different beans, they roast at a different pace than others. And when you're doing a blend like this, that's one of the things that can happen, is one bean is roasting at a quicker phase than the other. And so the one will be a little darker and the other one will be a little lighter. I've had that happen from time to time, and I think that's what happened here. So we're going to kind of monitor that as this roast goes on. Making the sourdough bread really had nothing to do with any of this stuff, except for everything kind of came together at the same time as far as starting and finishing. And I was actually making a video of, my starter and how I make the sourdough bread and stuff like that I'm going to post on my channel. So if you're interested in, seeing something like that, you can look for that video coming up really soon. Definitely won't be getting it done today after everything that's happened, and on top of all this, our grandbaby was over. We were watching him today because yesterday we were not able to do that. We watch him one day on the weekends for my son and his wife, so they can get things done around the house or do whatever they need to do. And so our grandbaby was over as well, and he was actually napping during all this, which was, crazy enough. But so just had a lot of things going on today. Probably had a little more on my plate. I kind of wanted to mow my backyard today, but I never got around to that because after I did this video, I was really interested to try to figure out what was going on. Why I was having this echoing issue. It was really, had me stumped. And a basic restart of my whole system and reloading everything. And I did a couple of test, videos live and stuff like that in private mode, and the issue went away. So here we are, roasting coffee. Our temperature is 332 degrees, rising pretty quick. The coffee roasting part of this, and what I like doing, and the reason why I do these lives, I do them just to show people how easy it is to do. It's something that you can do at home. This day, it's a little cold outside, not terribly cold, but it's in the 50s. Definitely overcast. Not quite a threat of rain, but definitely really dark gray skies because we are going to get some more rain starting tonight. But I was able to get this roast in the backyard. And if it does rain, I roast from my garage. Nice and covered. I do it at the very opening of the garage door with the garage door open and all that, because roasting coffee is definitely something you want to do outside. And that's one of the things that I'm showing you, part of the process of coffee roasting is, having a good roaster. And this is my roaster I have here. It's kind of new to me. I've had it for a few months now. I really, really like it over the basket roaster I had before, which basically was a screened-in, basket, and the beans were a little bit more exposed to the flame, where this one here, it's more contained, and the heat seems to warm the beans a lot heavier. You're going to notice up in the top right corner there, my temperature probe came out of my roaster there. And like I said, this roast was by far the most problematic roast I've had in I don't know how long. So I managed to get my temperature probe back in and finding out where I'm at temperature wise. Because at 400 degrees is the area where I want to really start paying attention to this roast. And you're going to see here when it gets to 400 that I actually am going to start pulling the beans off, because it just seemed like everything was hotter than the temperature probe was saying. So, you know, I also have my roaster turned. I normally have it turned on the other side, and I had it turned this time because I just was trying to change some of the, you know, photo positions that I was doing, the record, you know, the video positions, you know, because you can also see the roaster has a clear window looking into the roaster, so you can actually see the beans. And this is why when it got to 400 degrees and the smoke was starting to build, I stopped the roast and I dumped them out, because my concern was the temperature probe just wasn't reading right. So that's going to be coming up here real shortly, because we're at 371 degrees here. This is why I show you the temperature of the roast going on. I show you the window of what the beans are looking like, because you can see they're already looking pretty dark. And you know, then the other views are just to kind of show you the overall setup of what I have. I have a typical turkey fryer type burner. It's a propane burner that has the red knob on it, which has a higher BTU content. Gets a lot hotter than your regular burner that's going to be a lower BTU, and the knob is usually black or something like that on it for adjusting the flame. And the pressure that the flame is going out of the burner is definitely different than your standard type burner. So that's one of the key things that I like to point out as well. This is one of the higher BTU burners, definitely more for a turkey fry or something like that. It's putting out a lot more heat, and the flame damper needs to be adjusted so that it isn't necessarily, you know, shooting the flame out at a really high pressure. You can turn the pressure down with the air damper so the flame isn't coming out so hot. So that's what I've done here. This roaster runs about $130, $140. You can find them on Amazon. They're a dime a dozen on there. There's, I don't know how many different vendors that sell this exact same roaster. And it's basically a drum roaster. It holds 2 pounds of coffee beans, which is what I like. I used to only roast 1 pound at a time. I like being able to roast 2 pounds at a time, because I'm able to roast more and it lasts longer. You can see here we're getting at 404 degrees now, and you're going to start seeing what I'm talking about with the temperature and how the beans are going to start smoking a lot more. Now, if I had my mic working and all that much better, you would hear the cracking sound. There's definite distinct cracking sound that starts happening with the beans. It's like a popping, like a popcorn popping type of a sound. And that's just a indication that the beans are getting close to being ready to go. And you're going to see that my temperature seems to have stalled out here at 400, 403, 404 degrees. But the smoke is, you know, getting more and more intense. So I know that it's, you know, and you say, I'm here, I'm messing with the probe trying to see what's going on. So I make the decision, and as I determine that the smoke is starting to get more than it should be for this temperature, I realize that I probably need to stop this roast and dump these beans out. I can see in the window that they're definitely getting darker. You know, the window is just a guide. It's kind of hard to tell exactly the color because of the smoke and everything like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull the probe out. I'm going to turn the burner off, and I'm going to just take these over. I'm going to dump them into my sieve, my colander, and it's a metal colander. It's aluminum or something like that. And I have it over a fan that's blowing up because this next process is, a really important process. It's called the dechafing process, and the chafe is basically the outside skin of the bean that dries out and starts flaking off during the roast, and you want to get that out because that will affect the flavor of your final roast. And you can see all this stuff flying around in the air as I'm shaking it over the burner. And I just separate my my batch out into two separate colanders, because what I found was when I tried to do 2 pounds in one of these colanders, it was just too much. And it was taking too long, and there was just so much chafe to have to sift out that it was easier to do it in 2 different batches. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just shaking it over the fan here, and that's just a really cheap cyclone fan. I bought it in the off season. It was like on clearance. I've been using it for, 4 or 5 years now. I've been coffee roasting for quite a while. My son actually had showed me how to do this. It was something he had learned while he was in the military, stationed overseas, and he had learned how to do a bunch of different things, making beer and whatever. But coffee roasting was something that had interested me because I'm a big coffee drinker, love the flavor of coffee. And one of my first roasts that I did that really kind of got me hooked on doing this coffee roasting was one of the first batches I did. I really wasn't paying attention to the notes on the bags of what the flavors were of the different beans and things like that. But one of the first batches I did, we were drinking it, and I was like going, man, this stuff tasted just like Cracker Jack. The candy that you used to buy or you get at the movie theater, caramel coated, got the little peanuts in it, and popcorn. It was just crazy how the flavor was just so good, and it just reminded me of Cracker Jack. And ever since that roast, I was just really into it, and working on the different flavors of doing my own coffee roasting. And like I said, I have never really paid attention up until the last couple of roasts, the actual flavors and the notes and things like that. And I've started noticing more when I'm drinking the coffee after I've roasted it of the different flavors that they're talking about. And like in the last batch, we had kind of a chocolatey, fruity, nutty type of a bean in the 2 different bags that I roasted last time. And I literally, was able to determine and taste the flavors that they were describing coming out in the coffee. And it was actually the first time that I had actually done that, and noticed, the kind of fruitiness. I can't say, it was it tasted just like grapes or something like that, but I'm just saying how it had this hint of a sweet, fruity type of a flavor, while, on the backside, it had a little chocolatey taste to it. So here's that was a quick little view. I'll show you another little view of the roast here. But, the actual bean, turned out really, really nice. And like I said, there's a little bit of dark roast in there and nice medium roast going on. I'm actually pretty happy with the roast after having all the issues that I had. It was kind of crazy that it actually all turned out really well. So that was my roast this weekend. A lot of issues, a lot of problems, but the backside of everything worked out great. And I actually can't wait to taste this batch of coffee, fresh roasted, in my backyard. If I can do it, so can you. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something and sparks your interest to try it on your own. Have a great one. See you next time.